Welcome to another episode of Ask Cindy Connector Live. Well, happy Pay It Forward Friday. Happy Aloha Friday. This is Cindy, your host, over at Ask Cindy Connector Live. Make sure that you follow me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And of course, if you share this very broadcast, either on LinkedIn or on Facebook, after subscribing and commenting, I'll give you a 5-night hotel stay. So a little bit about the show. First off, if you are here on Facebook and you'd like to comment today, please go to streamyard.com/Facebook. That way both of the platforms marry and we can see your comments. So about Ask Cindy Connector Live, this is a podcast where I'm spreading the word about what you do. If you're a small business owner and you want me to spread the word about what you do, definitely connect with me. And also, if you have any small to medium-sized events, I would love to promote it here on the show. So tell my audience all about you, and then we'll go into your business.
All about me? Okay.
Yes, tell us all about right before you got into your business. What did you do before?
Okay, great question. How much time do I have? Over.
Well, the total show is a little over 20 to 30.
Okay.
But we like to go 20 and then we go into some Q&A and stuff.
Okay. Somebody recently, just in the last 20 minutes or so, asked me how I got started in this. So my name is John Waller. My company is the On Hold Experience. And I've been doing on-hold messaging. It'll be 25 years in May of this year. And how I got started doing this 25 years ago, I used to sell telephone headsets. And this was I was doing headsets way before Bluetooth was even born. And Bluetooth, it was developed by Sony and Ericsson. Bluetooth was a Norse god who got two feuding villages to talk to each other. And that's how the name Bluetooth came about. And so I started doing headsets in like 1995, and I did until 2010. And my boss heard me on the radio. I was on the radio, and I was always told I had a face for radio. I was doing 5 minutes every Saturday morning. I was doing productivity things for 5 minutes on the radio in Santa Cruz, California, about using headsets. And so Mike heard me on the radio one morning, and at this time I had one of these really cool PageNet voice pagers that you could call a pager and leave a voicemail message on the pager. And I was on vacation at the time, and his message got wiped out. I didn't hear from him, and I finally got a hold of him again. He wanted to set up a referral/networking breakfast, like you were talking about with Casey earlier today, so that we could refer business back and forth to each other. And that's how we met. And so I asked him, how much money could I make doing the on-hold stuff? And he told me. I said, well, I'll do the headsets as well as the on-hold. And then 13 years later, in 2010, I stopped doing the headsets and just focused on on-hold messaging. So did headsets for 15 years before that. Did pagers, cell phones. I sold pay phones. And this is, way before cell phones came out. And around that time, cell phones, like in the early 1990s, cell phones were $1 a minute. And this is when sometimes in movies you'll see the big old white brick phones.
Oh yeah, I had one of those.
That was the Moto G8000, the big brick. And I don't even think they had a CLA. I coined the term on that. A CLA is a cigarette lighter adapter, and that's how you would charge that bad boy in the car. I don't even think they had those. So cell phone time was $1 a minute. So you had to really make sure that it was an important call. A phone that you would call an 800 number, and then the person on the other end would type in your message, and it would send it out to the pager so you could see what it was saying. Like I was doing that back as early as 87. My ex-wife one time sent me a message saying that traffic was really bad on I-94 in Chicago. Don't take that. So that saved me a bunch of time being able to do that. And yes, I loved selling alphanumeric pagers because it was great technology before cell phones came out, when somebody like a locksmith or a one-man band opportunity, if somebody was like a locksmith or a pest control guy and didn't have an office staff, he would have an answering machine, and he wouldn't get his message all day. So going out and selling it to somebody like that, they were like, yeah, I love this, because they could get a message right away for somebody that had a lockout or something. So alphanumeric messaging was great back 34 years ago. So that's a little bit about me. And you mentioned that to Casey, you've been networking for like 36 years. I've been doing
30 years.
30. I've been doing networking groups since 1990.
Yeah.
And so it's been like 32 years. And he mentioned BNI and Lafine. He mentioned Latip. I affectionately call it Lafine, because that was my first networking group. And if you didn't bring a guest or a referral or your name badge, you got charged $1. You got fined $1. So that's why I call Latip Lafine. But that was my first networking group 32 years ago. So that's a little bit about me. I love networking. I love to network my brains out, whether it's a Zoomer or in person. It's great meeting people and connecting them up. Like, that's why you're a great connector, because you bring people together. And that's something he was talking about. I did this back in, you guys were talking about connecting people. Back in 2007 in Nashville, I was at a networking group. I learned this from Rick Silva. Rick Silva is a major trainer, and he runs networking groups in the Bay Area. And now he sells, him and his wife sell land. And in fact, he's got relatives that are in Taos, New Mexico, about 100 miles from here, where McLeod came from, Taos, New Mexico. And so Rick taught me this, and it was great, because you could be a monster connector at a mixer. You didn't know anybody else. So I was in Nashville. I hadn't been there more than 2 weeks. I could walk up to people and talk to them and ask them what they do. And like you said, not have business cards at the mixer. And Rick taught me to say, Fred, if I could introduce you to 3 people in any industry here at this mixer to help you to grow your business, what businesses would they be in? And they would tell me. And then, like what you said, I'll be back in 15 minutes. And I connected these 2 guys at this mixer at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, connected them together. And it was like, who was that masked man? They didn't know anything about me, but I put those 2 guys together at that mixer. They doing the same thing that you were talking about this morning.
Yes, it's important to be the connectors, because so many people go to chamber mixers, and different, like, belly to belly networking, and they're working the room, but all they're doing is talking about themselves.
And then what they're
They're
doing
not
is
really
their
thinking
business
about
card
being a
posts.
connector.
We call that auctioning off their business cards. And what's cool is when you leave the mixer, where all those business cards that all those people were passing out, where they end up? They're in the trash bin on your way out the door for the mixer. Because there's no relationship.
I actually found a stack this big the other day from quite a bit of mixers that I've attended, but all those have been put into my CRM, so they ended up.
There's no relationship created there, Cindy. Mm-hmm. None at all.
Exactly.
So, like you said, the best thing to go into a mixer like that is your pockets should be naked. You don't have any business cards, because nobody cares. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's why radio station KLTR is so important, that like, and trust and remember people. Mm-hmm. I like the way you added that R this afternoon. That was really good. So I started doing On Hold back in 1997. And what On Hold basically is, Cindy, it's a great way to build rapport with folks that are on hold at your business. I'll use the dentist as an example, because a lot of people don't know their dentist real well. But if you're on hold for the first time, and the first time you call a dental practice, and you hear about the doctor's experience and the things that he likes to do when he's not being a dentist, and the different kinds of services they offer, that creates rapport. And that's going to keep somebody on hold. Let's say maybe it's 3 or 4 minutes. I've been on hold as long as 19 minutes at dental offices that I was offering a free 90-day trial to, and could never get the doctor on the phone, even though they told me they wanted me to call them. But it creates rapport. It creates image, prestige, and professionalism when people are on hold on the telephone. That's what we do. I like to liken it to, Cindy, an audio website. We create like an audio website when people are on hold. They can hear all the things that you're talking about on your website when they're placed on hold on the telephone.
Oh, wow. That is really cool.
That created a visual in your mind just now. Your head exploded and you had to get duct tape because you're like, oh, okay, now I get that.
Yeah, so you're familiar with Kaiser Permanente. It's a hospital group here in California.
Well, in May 9th of 2009, they saved my life. Yeah, I'm kind of.
I was on hold about 6 months ago. I was on hold for 3 hours.
Really?
3 hours, yes.
Which location?
Here in Southern California.
Okay. That's interesting because the guy that ran Santa Clara, which is where they saved my life, Dr. Lee saved my life because I had a stroke, which got me in there. And they said, we have to operate and do open heart surgery at 4 o'clock today. And they found out that my aortic valve had been destroyed by bacteria the year before when I had bacterial meningitis. And they said, if we hadn't operated yesterday, you'd be toast, as in like stick a fork in your back and your front, you would have been dead. So they saved my life. In fact, Chris Boyd, who ran Santa Clara and Redwood City, was on the board of directors for the Santa Clara Chamber. And I saw him wearing a Fitbit, and that's why I got a Fitbit May 12th of 2012. So I saw him wearing his, and I was aware of it. But, now 10 years later in May, I've been using a Fitbit for 10 years, and Fitbits are amazing. So you mentioned 3 hours on hold in Southern California. What were you listening to, silence or music?
Just all the stuff about the company, about the hospital group. Yeah.
Okay. So question, how long was that mentioned? Could you tell like how often it repeated?
Oh my God, no. Actually, I literally had it on high speaker in the kitchen, and I was just doing my computer work.
Right.
And as soon as someone answered, I ran over there. Yeah.
That's an amazing hold time in 3 hours. Yeah, that's sad. But at least they had something on there talking about themselves. Southwest will do that too. Yeah. Yeah. Southwest has some monster hold time as well.
So what kind of music do you have for your on-hold business?
Well,
besides elevator music.
Well, we have all sorts of different kinds of music. And the main thing that we focus on is the message part. Is we write the script for the client. It's personalized for their business. It's not cookie cutter. And so we write the script for them. And what we do is once we write it, we'll email it to them for their approval and their blessing. They send it back and then we produce it. And what we do, Cindy, is we offer a 90-day free test drive. Okay. And after the 90-day free test drive, they have a choice to continue or to say, we're not going to do this anymore. And then they pull the message off. Yeah. But we have found that, in doing this for a quarter of a century, about 67% of callers that are listening to silence will hang up and call somebody else on their list. Wow. So if you don't want to lose a patient or a customer, at least you should have something on there that talks about what you do. Music's not a great choice. And here's the thing about radio with Radidio. If I called up a car dealer in Hayward, California a bunch of years ago, it was 2010, mm-hmm. I called every Nissan store in the country and I was put on hold. And I was listening to radio on hold at the store, and they were talking about the Chevy store down the street on hold at this car dealer. Now that's the KOD, that's a kiss of death. You do not want to do that. That's just embarrassing. I mean, if your owner called them and got put on hold and hear that, I mean, he let it fly down there in a rage and go crazy because you're advertising for your competition. You never want to do that, especially on hold. So that's why I'm a real proponent of doing a custom message on hold to talk about your doctor or the people that run the company, your products and services. And here's a great one. What about what you're doing around COVID?
Yes, I hear that too. Well, especially with the hospital groups, they have all those messages.
Right. Dentists, dermatologists, veterinarians. Vets and dermatologists are great candidates for an on-hold message because if a derm is talking about cool sculpting, you know how much a cool sculpting processes, like one treatment of cool sculpting, you know how much that is?
No.
It's about $2K. It's about $2,000. And so
Wow.
if you're educating your patients about cool sculpting on hold, that could generate $4,000 or $5,000 times 20, 20 patients a month. We're talking, $80,000 to $100,000 a month. By having somebody that's on hold 24/7, 365, never gets sick, doesn't get pregnant, doesn't go on vacation, and they always have a smile on their face. That's what we do for about $2 a day.
Wow.
And it's month to month. We're not talking about getting married here, Cindy. It's month to month.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, the dealerships. Well, let's kind of go back to something. You remember Joe Girard, right?
Oh my God. I talk to every car salesman. Every time I go out and do a training at a car lot, I talk about Joe Girard. And oh my God, how much time we got left? Don't get me started about Joe. Do you know what book Joe is in?
I can't remember. Yeah, I know he sadly passed away a couple years ago.
Guinness Book of World Records. And so
yes,
what Joe did, Joe started selling cars, and he went to a Chevy dealer back in, I don't know, BFI somewhere, Ohio or whatever, like 45, 50 years ago. He says, I want to sell cars, but I don't want any floor time. Just let me sell your cars. And what Joe would do is he would go to the white pages and he would call up Mrs. Walker and say, Mrs. Walker, this is Joe Girard down at XYZ Chevy. I've got your Chevy wagon all set for you to pick up. Oh, we didn't order a car. Oh, I'm sorry. What's in the driveway? And that's how you create rapport and start talking to her. And then what Joe would do, which is what you were getting to, is he would send out cards to everybody he talked to. And typically in the calendar, there's like 8 months that have something you can send a card out for. And so he would create 4 more things to send out a card for. And so husband would come home and email today, honey, no mail, but we got another card from Joe Girard, and so they would have a drawer full of Joe's greeting cards, and he would send these out to people. And eventually what happened, he was so busy, he would have a guy and his son-in-law at the dealership. People would come in and ask for Joe. It was like going to see the Messiah. They would walk in to see Joe and had to go through these 2 people that would, clear the meeting with Joe. That's how busy he was, because he would send out birthday cards, anniversary cards. He didn't do half birthday cards like you do, but that's what Joe was doing. And he was just a monster at it. He was in the Guinness, like I said, he was in the Book of World Records for selling cars.
I remember that.
Not fleets, onesie twosies, Cindy, not fleet cars. Yeah.
Yeah, he is the best car salesman ever. Yeah, by far. There's no one that even comes close. Yeah, and he would send cards to his clients, the wife, the kids. No, I mean, not just the client, also their family members. I mean,
right. But look at how
powerful.
He was selling. But he met all those people from picking up the phone and dropping dimes, making phone calls. He wasn't doing that because he was on the floor 12 hours a day. So he could work 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, because he didn't have any uptime. He didn't have any floor time. So, and this is way before networking groups. He wasn't doing that. And when I was selling insurance back in 77 in Chicago, I didn't know anything about chambers or networking groups. All I was doing was sending out Replyo cards. I would go and get names off of apartment buildings and send them out.
Wow.
And so I've got this gold clock that I have in storage that I won in 1978 from selling more insurance than anybody else out of like 3 guys in an agency for New England Life of 54 agents. And I was a brand new white belt. I knew nothing about asking for referrals or anything, but it was just from making the cold calls. And the fortune, so what I wanted to talk about was the fortune is in the FU, it's in the follow-up. And I sold $113,000 of on-hold messaging in 1999 for making phone calls and using a contact manager and getting a sale and beating out the sales manager that was doing a training of that's why I was in Phoenix that day, was to get some training. And this guy had this guy as a customer, but only had 1 location. So you got to make sure that you follow up and you just do anything you can in sales and marketing. And then the other story I wanted to share was the $1,000 shoe. I was prospecting this guy that was the GM of Honda dealership in San Leandro, California. Could never get through. So one day I decided to go to Ross and get those little toddler shoes for $1. I put one in a manila envelope with my business card and a piece of stationery, and I said, just trying to get my foot in the door. I sent 3 of those out on a Tuesday. Wednesday, this guy calls me up and he's laughing. GMs of car dealerships never laugh. So this guy's laughing. And I said, what's so funny? He says, I got your thing in the mail. When can you come in? I said, I'll be there tomorrow at 2:30. So I went in, we had an appointment, and I sold them. And so that's why I call it the $1,000 shoe, because I made $1,000 on that deal from one call. And he called me because I sent out a $1 toddler shoe in an envelope. So the reason I bring up that story, Cindy, is that's lumpy mail. And I'm not talking about lumpy on Leave It to Beaver. And 2 people out there will get that. Everybody else won't be old enough to understand that. But lumpy mail is the first thing you dig at when you open up your mailbox, whether it's at the post office or a P.O. box or at home. You dive into that lumpy mail because you want to see what the toy is or the gift is in there. And that's what he did. Was he opened up my lumpy mail, and I got the call, and I got the appointment, and I got the deal. So lumpy mail works.
Well, awesome. So we're at the end of the show. I'm going to pop up the graphic again, and then I'm going to have you just do a really quick run through of what we talked about with your business.
Okay.
Okay. So tell us all about your business, and then we'll do some shout outs and close out.
Okay. What I do is I help businesses to turn whole time into soul time or patient education time so that people will not hang up and call somebody else. It's a great way to market. It's a great way to turn whole time into an audio website of what's on your website. Talk about specials, talking about if you're a dentist and you do Invisalign, you're giving away an iPad to somebody that gets Invisalign. Talk about it on hold as well as the website. Talk about, you can cross promote different locations that your business has. Let people know about that as well. My virtual business card is my name, johndwaller.com. You put that in your address bar on Google or Safari. My business card will pop up, all the links to LinkedIn, Facebook, and there's a demo of my on-hold message right on there. So I can send my virtual business card to anybody on the planet in about 3 seconds. There you go, Cindy.
Let's do some shout outs and then we'll close.
Thanks, Cindy. I guess my only shout out would be to you for being the connector queen that you are and helping me be on here and being a great travel agent. And just, you are the guru example to all of us that are networking and connectors. I mean, you are the epitome of being a connector. Yes.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to pop you in the green room and just hang tight for a minute, and then we'll chat some more. Thank you. Wow, guys, definitely check out his website. You could go here on the chat here on this podcast. And as always, think of 5 people every single day to pay it forward to. Make some calls of gratitude, just about gratitude, nothing else. There's plenty of time for business. As we talked about earlier with Casey and also with John today, when you do a belly-to-belly networking, try to stay away from taking business cards. And when you're meeting people, have it be all about them. This is Cindy over at Ask Cindy Connector Live. Go out and add some aloha on Aloha Friday. Shaka, baby.